Hello, and you've reached the latest episode of the Comic Anthologist, and if you like what you see, and
please hit that subscribe button and definitely hit that bell for all the updates and everything that comes with it.
yeah, and if you like this particular episode, just hit the like button and just let us and appreciate and just show your support.
Exactly. Today we are going to talk about something that's off the kilter, but they're actually not about to, they've already gone to production, and the show is called Y, the Last Man. Now, Y, the Last Man was created by Brian K. Vaughan and Pia Gura, and basically it was about what would happen if there was one man left alive after a plague that wipes out everything that has a Y-chromosome,
Right.
including sperm, embryos, animals, you name it.
Right, exactly.
Everything that was just straight that had a Y-chromosome, with the exception of those two, just literally died off. And a lot of women were killed off too in the process, because some of the men were flying airplanes,
Right,
or driving
exactly.
buses or trains or operating machinery when some of these women were present. And as a direct result, a lot of these women were killed either in the crashes or accidents that took place after the fact.
And so the thing is with the story as well is that there is no definitive answer what took out the men in the storyline. Basically, you go from talking about that someone was trying to do illegal cloning experiments or whatnot, to basically
An act of God saying that God wiped out all the men on earth and
Right.
wanted to wipe the slate clean.
exactly. And then another theory which was brought up was one of the characters, 355, she had grabbed an amulet or something, and saying that with the amulet she read something that a plague or something will befall mankind that will be greater than the wars and everything that had taken place during the Roman era.
Right.
But again, there was no definitive answer on what went down. But the whole gist of the storyline is basically Yorick Brown, hence Y, the Last Man,
And his monkey.
his
Ampersand.
monkey, Ampersand. Yeah, and one of the theories why he survived was that was his pet monkey, and he was basically cleaning up all the feces and stuff like that.
And that's in actuality also too, the monkey was part of the doctor that's one of the other characters. Her name was Dr. Mann. She was basically, no, not Dr. Mann, but there was another doctor in the story that she basically had this monkey and left it in Yorick's care when the plague hit. So that was basically the two of them kind of countered each other, but not so much countered each other, but kept each other alive is what I'm trying to say.
And Yorick himself was an escape artist, so he was basically like a slacker escape artist, just living his life.
Amateur magician. And he was just living his life, doing his thing.
When everything went down.
And the minute the plague went down, all he could think about was trying to get back to his girlfriend, Beth.
Beth DeVille, yes.
And then also his sister ended up...
His sister, Hero.
Yeah, his sister Hero ended up... Thank you. His sister Hero ended up joining a group of women called Daughters of the Amazon, who were tasked specifically by the leader of that particular group to kill the last man.
And now Yorick himself, his mother was involved in politics, and she, as a result, as a line of succession of since all the men were killed off, she was next in line to become president. So she tasked Agent 355 to protect Yorick Brown from the dangers of the Daughters of Amazon
and the world, and basically anybody that just wanted to take him out, because there were a lot of angry women out there that was said, oh, now that all the men are gone, let's go ahead and try to wipe out that last man. This is a sign from God that we can just run things ourselves.
Exactly.
But also at the same time, had they tried or succeeded in killing Yorick throughout the 60-issue limited, I wouldn't call it a limited series, but it was a 60-issue series, then mankind would have gone into extinction.
Exactly.
But a couple of doctors throughout the story did figure out a way to clone Yorick. So eventually there were 17 clones of Yorick that were created successfully that were able to help propagate the rest of the human race once infrastructures and society and everything was able to get to some semblance of, I should say, stability.
Right.
But
because one thing that caught my attention was a buddy of mine had recommended it to me, because normally at the time when it first came out, I was reading mostly Marvel, DC, and then the independent stuff with Dark Horse and everything. But
right.
But it was under the Vertigo imprint, and I had already been impressed by Preacher. already.
Oh,
Yeah. So I had already been impressed by Preacher. I said, so let me just check this out or whatnot,
And
right?
Preacher is another one we'll go to at another time, but we'll get back to Why the Last Man.
And so I was like, let me go ahead and check this out because I like to think outside the box. I like the stuff that's in the box with DC and Marvel, but then get outside the box and just see different stories.
And it had such great character development in terms of York, but York was just such a slacker. And then you had his sister, then you had his girlfriend Beth, and then the adventures and trials and tribulations of trying to get to his girlfriend Beth.
Exactly.
All the while he did, he did,
and then Yorick did fall in love because all the while he was trying to get to Beth, but the surprising development is that he fell in love with Agent 355.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that being said, right when Agent 355 had whispered in his ear her true name, or was about to, she was killed. She was assassinated. And so that haunted him for the rest of his life because then he realized that she was the true love of his life.
Right.
And Beth, that's the same woman, that girlfriend that he
was fighting to get back
to or whatever.
No, issue 2 or issue 1.
And he realized that he was never in love with Beth, and Beth wanted to get together with him, but he was like, no, my true love was 355. And that's something that haunted him until he was an old man, when by the time the human race was restored and everything.
And the thing is, the way how the story ended was that he had said something to Congress about killing himself in a joke, and they took that seriously because they thought he would actually kill himself, but he didn't. And so they put him in a straitjacket and put him in a crazy room and says, yeah, well, we're going to put you here until you get to your senses straight or whatnot. But the thing is, they forgot to realize at age 85, he was an escape artist through and through.
He could still escape out of his cell. He still got out of a straitjacket and everything. So
by the time the series ended at issue 60, on that last page, a clone of Yorick, he had basically given some advice to the other clone of Yorick that he was talking to. And she says, don't do basically what they tell you to do. You go live your life and just live it to the fullest of your capacity.
Right.
And the younger clone Yorick walked out the room or whatnot to go talk to the other people. And then Yorick had left the straitjacket and the chair and the room dark, and that's how it ended.
And the crazy part is that we're not going to go into the whole 60 issue because we'll be here all day talking about that.
That's going to take too long to discuss.
Yeah, exactly. But one of the other key things that I liked in it towards the end of the storyline was that they cloned ampersand like 17 times. And even the original Yorick flat out said, they cloned this monkey 17 times and they still didn't get that monkey right.
No, he's never going to be right because ampersand was one of those kind of monkeys that was never right in the first place to begin with.
Exactly.
And
well, he was never right in the first place because he was the one that, we don't know if that was that protected Yorick from that plague, but that was his companion throughout the whole series as well. Exactly.
Oh yeah, so, from issue 1 to the end.
But those women in that storyline
were vicious.
They were vicious. I was just like, good grief. They were just hell bent on taking Yorick out, and
especially the one from the Daughters of the Amazon, because she basically was the type that she was so intelligent, but she had been abused by men so badly and so much and screwed over to the point where she hated all men. So when the plague took out all of men in terms of mankind, she was happy that it happened, and she says, oh no, it's our task to go kill it.
And I just said, good criminity's grief.
But eventually someone took her out because they felt if you kill this last man, mankind is going to basically go extinct within the next few years down the road because there's no reproduction with just women all over the place.
And I'm curious to see how they're going to play out the production of this, because they've already started production of the TV series.
February 4th of this year.
That's when they started.
They started February 4th of this year, and Diane Lane is the congresswoman that is the mother to Yorick Brown, and she's the one that tasked Agent 355 to protect Yorick throughout the series.
Exactly. So
it's going to be interesting to see how it's going to turn out, because originally they had tried to make this into a movie back in 2010,
right,
and unsuccessfully. And
it was caught up in development hell at that time.
Yeah, because David Goyer was also part
attached
of
to it, right?
Yeah, exactly, but. It just, like you said, development hell, it never happened, and then eventually...
And see, you know what else I thought about too, is that I'm glad they're making it a TV series so they get to flesh out all the stories.
Oh
because if you do it in a feature-length format, that may be good, but they may chop out certain key elements that was in the book that may even flesh out and enrich the story to the viewer who is not familiar with the book.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Not only that, it gives it deeper character development, just like you said, but also able to tell all the stories. They may not tell all 60 issues, but they may be able to do it within 2 or 3 seasons and tell the entire story.
Yeah,
of
key bullet point.
Exactly. So not to
parts of the
bore,
story.
because there was a part of the story where there were astronauts that were in space when the plague took place, and there was 2 guys left. But the thing is, they were being gentlemen when the space shuttle crashed down onto Earth.
The capsule?
Yeah, the capsule splashed down onto Earth in terms of crashing. But the thing is, it still had fuel or whatnot in it. So they pushed the woman, she was one of the astronauts, they pushed her out of the capsule.
Right.
But as a direct result of that, they were like, oh no, get them out of there, get them out of there. Both of those 2 guys ended up burning to death inside that capsule, thus making York again the last man on Earth.
And the crazy part was too is one of the astronauts was pregnant by the female astronaut that was in that capsule that was up in space with them.
Yeah, she was pregnant.
She had an affair with one of the astronauts.
Right.
And so, and that's right around the time where I kind of had to walk away from the book for a little bit. Even though I enjoyed the storyline, it has nothing to do against the book. It was just life. My life was just getting kind of crazy.
But yeah, getting back to it, it's just basically, it brought in some more dynamic into it in terms of, there was originally supposed to be 2 more men, but they burned to death inside the capsule. So thus, that woman who was pregnant, she ended up having to go on a run, but then again, she ended up giving birth to a little girl. And then York, the one that he impregnated, because there was a woman he got involved with along his travels, he impregnated her too, but she ended up giving birth to a girl.
Yeah, so the crazy part was I thought that had those 2 astronauts lived, and that's what I was thinking about when we just talked about that storyline. I wonder if that virus is going to affect those 2 astronauts that was caught in that capsule, and right when you think they're going to escape and they got burned to death, I was like, oh man, and I was just like, I was expecting to see if it was going to...
I know,
but
they didn't go into it, but they had to stay true to the book with the way how the whole concept was of having the last man. But it would have been nice to have those 2 guys running around, but they probably would not have survived too much longer in the story because, like I said, there were factions of women that wanted to wipe out what was left of the men.
But then, too, at the same time, they probably could have been taken out by the virus too had they survived, because they didn't have that natural natural immunity that Yorick Brown had.
That's true. They could have easily stepped outside the capsule, and the plague would have taken them out right then and there.
Exactly. So,
in any case, this is another episode of the Comic Anthologist, and please, if you want to hit us up and want to reach us with any kind of questions, you can reach us at thecomicanthologist@gmail.com. And also, if you have any kind of questions or any things or whatnot, hit us up. If there's any kind of inconsistencies, hit us up.
Right.
We'll be more than happy to talk and chat with you about how those things have gone down.
exactly.
And also to hit that bell to receive any notices of anything that comes through.
And if you like this video, hit the like button too as well.
Yeah, exactly. Well, until then, take it easy. Peace.